Hello, everyone. We are in our second session on Thursday. It's a pity it's very short. We should make this 1 month that we are everybody together every night because it's so encouraging when you get in the night all these beautiful messages and our discussions and everything. So um, tonight we have really pleasure and honor to have a very good friend of mine. He would say brother, exactly the brother, Father Radivoje Krulj. He is an Orthodox priest living in Mostar. When I asked him to write me his biography, he just wrote 3 sentences. First sentence is that he graduated theology, Orthodox theology. The second one that he is the master of the old temple, the church in Mostar, and the third one that he is the husband of Natasha, and they 6 children. Um, I would like to say that Father Radivoje is really something special in the heart of majority of the people who has peace in the heart in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because in one moment we were so much searching for somebody from that side, all the time was like, oh, okay, like you heard Mevludin, how I will be peace builder, but I'm from this side, and where is from the other side? So in Father Radivoje, we get that other side, really, the somebody who is even maybe better than us in that really how to live. They are living as minority in Mostar, so they are he will say more about his situation. But just I would like to say how, for example, the Orthodox Church was destroyed during the war in Mostar, and he has started to rebuild that. And the way how he's rebuilding that church and including all of us make that church really the home of all of us people, whoever we are. For example, when I told him last year that we are coming, group like you, that we are coming to visit them, he said the bells will ring because the peace builders are coming. And can you imagine us coming up to the hill to the church, and all Mostar is listening the ringing of the bells because us peace builders are coming there. And that's I don't think that I have ever had the better reward for my 20 years work of peace building. And I think that you will have pleasure also to meet. Radivoje will speak in Serbian, but it doesn't matter. Mirala is doing great job in translation. And he said that he don't want to speak long. He will speak shortly, but he really would like to interact with you to get the questions and to talk to you. Evo, Rašo, izvoli.
Hvala lijepo,
Thank
dobro
you
večer
very
svima.
much. Good evening, everyone.
Hvala Amri.
Thank you,
Ja se
Amra.
svima izvinjavam,
And I
jer
am
ja
sorry
ne govorim
because I
engleski,
don't speak
nažalost,
English,
inače sam
unfortunately.
jako smotan i
I am
nesposoban.
very
Nešto razumijem,
I'm not
ali
competent. I
Amra
understand
je ovo
something.
pretjerala kako me najavila.
I'm also
Otprilike
clumsy,
nešto
and
sam
also
razumio da
Amra
je nešto
did
rekla
too
o
much
meni.
in my
Ali eto, ja sam jedan obični
representation and
čovjek, ovdje
bio.
živim sad trenutno u
I
Mostaru.
live in Mostar.
Rođen sam prije 44 godine također
I
ovdje
was
u
born
Hercegovini,
44 years ago
jednom
here in
malom mjestu
Herzegovina,
između
in a
Mostara
little
i Trebinja,
place
zove se
between
Dubinje.
Mostar and Trebinje.
I tamo sam živio i završio osnovnu
And
školu.
I finished
Rođen sam u jednoj
elementary school
porodici koja
there.
je
I
mnogo
was
stradala
born in a
u Drugom
family
svjetskom
that
ratu.
had many atrocities done to the
Bukvalno
family in
su
the Second
svi
World
članovi
War.
moje porodice
All the members of my family
stradali u
died
jednoj hercegovačkoj
in
jami,
one
ostatak su
Herzegovinian pit.
bliži i dalji rođaci odvedeni u
And my
ta
cousins
stratišta u
were
Jasenovcu i
taken
tako
to
dalje.
concentration
Tako da je
camps.
i moje
So
djetinjstvo
my
je
childhood
bilo
was
nekako označeno tim stradanjem
was
i tim
marked by
pričama
these atrocities and these stories
moga djeda
told
i
by
oni koji
my
su
grandfather
preživjeli,
and those
ali
who survived.
nekako sam od malih
But
nogu
since a
učio
little
se
age, I
ipak
was
ljubav
learning
i
how to
poštovanju, da to
love and how to
nisu
respect, and
uradili
that this was
to
not
zlo
done by entire people like Croatian people or Bosniak people, in that time Muslims. But that was done by individuals, and in these, they were our first neighbors, and our grandfather was teaching us how to forgive, because our faith is teaching us this, our God is teaching us this, our gospel is teaching us this, and the gospel preaches the unconditional love, and the unconditional love is that our God took death to himself, on himself, and he rose from the death on the third day so that he can give to every man life. And that's a paradox, but that's the biggest love, that someone is ready to give their own life for you. And that's what I was that's what I was learning my whole life, and I went to my elementary and high school, and then the beginning of war happened, and the ethnic cleansing happened, unfortunately. From Neretva and Mostar, the Serbs were persecuted to the eastern, to the other side of the Herzegovina, and Catholics and Muslims were taken from the western side. And of course, churches were burned in Mostar and other places. Learning this love, this God's love, it was hard for me as a child to hear an explosion, and to hear that also the mosque in Bileća was burned as well. That's when I saved one piece of rock from that mosque, and I knew at that moment this was bad. What was done to this mosque was really bad. And the more I learned about the gospel, and I learned about my faith, and I grew up in a healthy way in my faith, this was being confirmed in me. This way of peace building, and these words that Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." That was something that was given to me in my childhood. That was something that stayed in me until my childhood. Afterwards, when I finished theology in Belgrade, and before that I was a part of the war, I was a soldier. I was a soldier of Republika Srpska in 1995 and 1996. Thank God, when I was in army, the Dayton Peace Agreement was signed and the peace came into our country. After that, I went to theology and I studied in Belgrade, and this is where, in this city, which is multi-ethnical, I was being taught by different cultures. But also, I grew up with neighbors that had a different faith here in Mostar. And so this living together with one another was a normal thing for me growing up. Later on, when I got married, I was a priest in Nevesinje in East Herzegovina from 2000 till 2007. And that was a period of bringing back the Muslims, and also the building of the mosques and houses. And I had the opportunity to be the spiritual leader, where 95% of people were Orthodox. And from that perspective, I was a spiritual leader in that place, where Muslims and Catholics and those others needed help because they were minority. And I really put myself on service to them, and I put myself on service to the government as well, because these people were wonderful, and of course it was easy to be on the right side. In Mostar, that is a multi-ethnical city as well, I am in the other role. I am a spiritual leader, and I live amongst the minority. Serbs are minority when it comes to Mostar. And my people, Serbian people, now need help. They need, everything was burned, and it needed reconstruction. Of course, the church, the biggest church, needed reconstruction, the temple. From that Christian perspective, gospel is always relevant. If you are rich or poor or martyr or whatever, gospel teaches love, and it reminds us of God's way. And so here as well, we wanted to rebuild the church, and we wanted our neighbors who are happy to have the church again. We wanted to, with the church, to build life among different groups of people. And I think that we are very successful in that, but we would not be successful if we didn't have with us way of God in front of us. Without calculating, we were sharing our faith. We were sharing gospel. We are not into politics. We are not into calculations, but we really try with our archbishops, with our people, to testify and to tell God's word. And people recognize that. People in Mostar say that we are not shallow, we are not hollow, that we teach, we say what we do, what we teach. We have the action of love as well, on the field, on the spot. And I think that love can be shown with affection. If we are careful to the other, if we pay attention to them, then of course love will show in that process. And that's why our neighbors and the entire Mostar, they started seeing that, and they started helping us in what we do as well. Of course, not everything is great. There's always temptations, there's always problems, there's always misunderstanding and not understanding. But the biggest not understanding would be that we don't really try sometimes to understand the other, and we don't cross this border of knowing the other. That is our first neighbor, who believes differently, thinks differently, and in that way, in meeting the other, we are meeting each other. And these prejudices that we have towards one another are broken. And that's the real way. I don't say this is the only way, but I think this is the right way. That's why what Amra is doing, what you are doing, knowing Amra for long amount of years, this is it, to know the other, to meet them, and to be joyful with them, to be sorrow with them, to be sad with them, to share with one another, and to give hand to one another. And this is how we can build bridges of love and trust. And Mostar is ideal for this. It's not by accident that Mostar has the name of Mostar, because most is bridge. In that spiritual, in that interreligious, interethnic dialogue. And people who don't care for these bridges, people who care for these bridges will have a lot of problems along the way.
Kako da kažem, prokažen, optužen od jednih,
So
drugih,
I was
trećih,
accused from first, seconds, and the
kad ste
thirds,
graditelj takvog mosta.
and I was
A
accused of
ja
building
sam
these
osjetio
bridges.
potrebu, jer
I
redovno
felt the
idem na ovdje
need
jedno strašno stratište
to go to one
Bošnjaka
of the biggest
u Mostaru, to
place
je
where atrocities were
gradska
done
deponija
towards
Utorak,
Muslim
gdje
Bosniaks
su
people,
vojne i
where
paravojne
military
formacije, tada
formations,
paravojne formacije počinili jedan strašni zločin.
did a horrible
I kad
crime.
napravite
And when you do something like this, when you make this step, when you really give an effort to show your community,
bi vas spriječilo tamo da odete, ali kad odete uvijek ima problema i da vas
you always have
porodice žrtava prihvate i da vide
you
da je
always
taj
have an open door that the family of the people that died accept you, and that this move that you made is not a marketing move or a media move, but this was sincere. And also that your people, your community will stop telling, will start asking questions, saying, why did you go there? Do you know what they did to us? Why did you do this? They would not come to us, just so you know. But we have to understand that in the world there is enemy. There's a spiritual enemy. And that only with building bridges and peace building, this evil can be beaten. So I would not say more. I really try to say something in 10 and 15 minutes, not to take your time. And I put out my little story. I would like to open a dialogue. And Amra said that I will speak in Serbian, but I also know Bosnian and Croatian as well. We here in Balkan, with just giving birth, with just being born, we are we have knowledge of multi languages. So we are opening the floor for questions, Q&A. Thank you, Radivoje. So now I am watching chat, and greetings to Radivoje. So Amra is going to read the chat room. We don't really have a lot of questions, so please. Okay, Bryan has a question. But I really respect what you presented for all of us, but I also know that it is always a very hard position to talk to your own people, because here always Muslims and me as a Protestant and other Christians, we always have a lot of problems with our own people, with our own communities, with our own religious group. And so my question is how to face with those people in our own groups, and how to keep going as a part of our group, even though we know there's people like that, and how to build these bridges, because we are always seen as traitors for our groups. And I think that you are really in the middle of this, because you know exactly this problem. And what kind of suggestions do you have for us that we affect our group, and also to remain as a part of our group? Thank you, Bryan. This is a wonderful question, really. This is true. I will give one example. I don't know if it will be understood, but I will try to be precise. 20 years ago, when Orthodox people were going back to Mostar, there was this collective centers, and I asked them, what do you need? And this man said, what we need, you cannot give us. When we go back to our neighbors, we are the traitors because we came back to Mostar. And for those in Mostar, we are the aggressors. But we cannot give up. And that is really important. And that is what the gospel teaches us. You cannot be lukewarm in your because God does not like being when you are lukewarm. You have to be without the compromise. You don't be afraid to tell the truth, because when we tell the truth will set us free. I really try to tell my people in my community to give them truth, even though the truth is hurtful so many times. And of course, a lot of people give up, but thank God, a lot of people also come to church, and a lot of people understand, and then some people who even leave, they come back. So the worst thing is to be lukewarm. The biggest thing is to search the middle ground. That's the worst thing, sorry, is to look for the middle ground, because that is the way towards hell, basically. Gwendolyn, I think you were unmuted. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you. I think it's really important not to search for the middle ground, but you have to be without the compromise, not to be lukewarm. This was really direct. And I testify that you really are doing this in your everyday life. While we're waiting for other questions, we did a lot of mentioning in Serbian Orthodox Church in these last 3 days, not in a nice context, but you are here as a first representative, not a typical representative of the Orthodox Church. So you can answer some of these things. Most of the time, church was mentioned, Orthodox Church, Serbian, because it stands for the universal principles. But the bad thing that was mentioned was that the Orthodox Church was standing with the people no matter what the people did. How to balance between and is it linked to that the church is the church is serving the government? How do you make peace with these two things? Thank you. This is a very difficult question, but I also said that there is no compromise with attitudes, with opinions. I am not happy with Orthodox Serbian Church. And to continue with my previous answer, unfortunately, in the last period, the Orthodox Serbian Church is not even looking for that middle ground anymore. But I'm afraid that after this embrace with politics and church, what will come is a complete surrendering to the politics. The Orthodox Church needs to have a reform, and it needs to become almost Protestant, and Bryan will be happy with this, but our church really needs to be reformed, and we need to tell clearly about many questions that we have. But in our church there's a lot of good people. I think we were fortunate, and we had Patriarch Paul during the war, not just when he was asking us to be people and he was asking for peace, but he was also a peace builder in the most difficult times. But I, as a priest of the Orthodox Church, and I say this with full pride, but I am not satisfied with the Serbian Orthodox Church. I'm not satisfied with their attitude. Thank you, Radivoje. This is good for you, for the judgment day for you, but we don't know what's going to happen with the Orthodox Church. And now we have two questions, and of course for us as well as Protestants, we have to protest even more, because now we are like hierarchy without capacity to keep going in the protest against these forms of power that are destroying.
Hvala, Bryan.
Thank you, Bryan. Do you want to continue or do you want me to tell the question? So we have a question from Samija Bano, and you can read it in the chat.
Kaže, možeš li govoriti malo o šta oprost znači za tebe? Šta on zahtijeva? Da li, na primjer, je moguće da ja oprostim osobi koja me povrijedila, a koja neće da prizna tu grešku?
Da, to je...
Yes, this is...
Suštinsko evanđelsko pitanje.
This is a core gospel question for us Christians. That the forgiveness is the most beautiful part of human honesty. When we talk about unconditional love, we say that kind of forgiveness also is the biggest is the biggest affection of human being, to bless those who curse us, to love our enemies, to no matter if somebody will forgive us back or take our forgiveness, ours is to ask for forgiveness and ours is to forgive. Without any hidden agenda. The most beautiful thing that can happen is that we ask for forgiveness and the person forgives us, or vice versa. This is wonderful, but we always have to go from our own position and unconditionally to be ready to ask for forgiveness and to forgive. We teach this, we learn this, we give testimony about this because Jesus is teaching us this. Jesus is dying on the cross, and in that moment when he is dying, he forgives those who kill him, who are killing him in the moment. And that's an example for us. Thank you so much for your question.
If I can jump in real quick. So like for my specific example, where I grew up and the people I grew up around and my family have very negative and had very nasty things to say towards me. But then the people that I'm now friends with and live with, refugee societies mostly from Eastern Africa, and there's also a divide there. I'm not African. I'm not, I don't really fit into their group, so I feel very caught in the middle often, where I'm not really accepted or treated well where I came from and my family, but also don't really fit in where I'm at.
Da, shvatio sam. Mislim da je to nemoguće.
I think it is impossible to find a compromise between those that do not recognize our truth, because people watch this from their own perspective. I think in this case, the prayer really is the best medicine for those who are to recognize this, that we really have a good intentions between towards one and the other group as well, to understand why we do what we do and to accept us because we know we are doing the right thing. because you will always have resistance and you will always have people that look from their own perspective but not from yours. Somebody who is completely obsessed with themselves and egoistic, they will always look at from their own perspective and will not try to put themselves in your position. And that's our preaching. And that's why I really try to pray for those who do not understand me and to be even more persistent in what I do, hoping that the first and the second group will recognize that this is a right way to go.
Mirela, hoćeš ti da prevedeš ovo pitanje veliko?
Može.
Hvala.
Hvala vam za vaš razgovor o oproštenju. Na koji način mislite da rad za pravdu je povezan sa oprostom? Na koji način ste vi navigirali ove tipove razgovora? Da li je za mene je teško da mislim o tome da tražim oprost kada ja ili moja grupa je bila ta kojoj je nanešena want to do a lot of harm and is the group doing... Meni je teško da tražim oprost kada je moja grupa bila ta koja je nanijela puno socijalne i političke, koja je puno u socijalnom i političkom položaju moći. Iz moje perspektive, ovo je realnost bijelih kršćana u Sjedinjenim Državama. Za mnoge crnačke zajednice taj poziv na oprost na neki način je plitak, zato što historijski pričano to je bilo korišteno od strane bijelih Amerikanaca da bi ušutili ove pozive za pravdu.
Razumio sam, mislim,
I understood the question, maybe. I think I understood. Thank you, Nicole. That's a really serious question.
Mislim da je na to pitanje jednostavan
I think that
odgovor.
on this question I have a simple answer.
Suštinski, svaki čovjek je grešan.
Every man is sinful.
Mislim da nema čovjeka
I don't believe there's a man on this planet that is without a sin.
Ta vaga, ko je manje, a ko više grešan,
this talk about who is a bigger sinner is not in our hands. This is the judgment of God. Coming from that story that every man is sinful, I think that every man, of course, and the community has the need to ask for forgiveness. Whenever somebody thinks that there is no need for them to ask for forgiveness, then we are in a big problem.
Mislim da je to odgovor na
I think this is the answer for this
Gledajući sad
question.
svojim očima na
Looking
ovaj
to
primjer
my
koga ste
own eyes,
naveli u Sjedinjenim
this
Američkim
example that
Državama
you
i
said
ono što
about
je
the
bilo
US
kroz
and what
bližu
happened
i dalju
throughout the
istoriju,
history in the US,
zaista tako izgleda
really
i
looks
zaista
like
jeste
that, and you are right.
zajednica koju navodite
And really,
obespravljena i bila ugnjetavana i
the
tako
black
dalje i tako
community
dalje.
is
Ali u svakom slučaju
was done a
i
lot
ta
of harm
zajednica,
upon.
ako hoće da bude velika, a siguran sam da hoće, ima potrebe da traži oproštaj i da dobije oproštaj. To je,
if the white Americans want to be big, or if they want to do some good, the most important thing is to ask for forgiveness. This is the only way to ask for forgiveness.
Imala sam osjećaj da tu Nicole muči to kao
I had a feeling that Nicole has a problem with justice and forgiveness. How to navigate this? The justice and forgiveness. Yes,
kao što nema na
just
zemlji
like on earth
nikoga bez
there is
grijeha,
no one
tako
without
i
the
nema
sin. Of
idealne
course,
pravde.
there is
I
no
neće je
pure
nikad
justice,
biti dok
and you will never have
je
pure
god
justice or perfect justice.
svijet onakav
And we
kakav
will never
jeste.
have it on this
Ali
world.
mi težimo za,
But we are
kao
striving
vjernici, za
as believers
taj vječni život. I tu je ta
towards the
idealna
eternal
pravda,
life,
kada
and
će
that's
sve
where
biti
the eternal justice is,
izmireno. I što
where
je Amra
we
malo
will have
prije
peace
govorila o tom
finally.
sudnjem
And
danu.
what Amra was talking
To
about,
je iz
the
naše
judgment
perspektive
day,
vjernika
from our perspective of
jedina
people who have faith, that
istina i
is the
jedina
only
pravda.
truth and the only justice.
Uvijek će biti na ovoj
We
zemlji
will always
nepravde.
have
Tako isto
injustice in this
je jedno
world.
sa drugim,
And
mislim da je povezano.
I think this is linked with one another.
Taj odnos pravde
This
i
relationship
oproštaja.
between
Ali
justice
ako
and
se
forgiveness.
trudimo,
But if
tražimo oproštaj, dajemo
we
oproštaj,
ask for forgiveness,
onda
if we give
smo na
forgiveness,
tom stubu pravde
then we
slažemo ozbiljnu kulu i onda će
then we
nepravda
are
biti,
building towards
kako
justice.
da kažem,
And
manje
then
vidljiva, ali neće uvijek biti.
it will be maybe seen less, but it will be there.
Nicole, are you happy? Is she here? Can she listen to me?
Yeah, I think perhaps if you have a story of an example, that could be helpful for me.
Možda kada biste imali priču ili primjer, neki tačan primjer ili priču, to bi mi pomoglo da razumijem vaš odgovor na moje pitanje.
Da, ja sam u svom uvodnom izlaganju iznio taj jedan moj period života kada sam bio lider zajednice koja je bila većinska u Nevesinju i gdje sam imao 1000 razloga da tražim oproštaj od onih koji su obespravljeni, koji su ugnjetavani, da im pomognem i tako dalje. I imam sad perspektivu življenja u Mostaru,
And now I have the perspective in Mostar where I am a leader of the community that is minority this
iz
time.
ove perspektive obespravljena. Mi još uvijek skoro 100, tačnije 91 osobu tražimo njihove kosti da ih sahranimo.
The bones of the people that died. We don't know where they are from this previous war.
Naša crkva, naši manastiri, sve bilo sravnjeno sa zemljom.
Our monasteries were burned down.
Naši ljudi su odavde protjerani.
People were driven away from their houses. In Mostar, before the war started,
danas živi oko 4000.
Only now, after the war, only 4,000 of Orthodox people live in Mostar. But I am teaching my community that we are not without the sin and that we have a lot of reasons to ask for forgiveness from other communities. And only like that, with the openness towards the other and to ask for forgiveness and giving the hand of peace towards the others. Even though every parameter tells me that we are in minority. Can you please mute yourselves? That injustice was done towards us. That's all true. But if we look through the gospel, then we have to know that we have to ask for forgiveness. Maybe that's the best example. Someone's not muted. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Samo ne znam, Mirala, je bolje da pričam na engleskom ili na bosanskom, da svi onaj...
Na bosanskom mislim, onda je prevod.
Da, Mirala prevodi njima, dobro.
Yeah.
Možeš i na hrvatskom.
Može, ovom. Ovdje. Ja sam doživjela sad nije važno, u Velikoj Kladuši gdje je bio među Bošnjaka.
In Velika Kladuša,
sad ne komplikujemo, njima nije važno. Dvije su znači ratne strane u ovom
I was a witness of two sides that had war between the neighbors, and the neighbors killed the son of the family from the other side. And when the father of that son got sick, he started to go to that house and he went to ask for forgiveness. His grandson was telling me about the story, and he said, why are you asking for forgiveness from people that killed your son? And then he said, I need to go there and ask for halal, for forgiveness. And the grandfather went over there and he said, will you forgive me? And people looked, and the silence started, and then they started crying and said, Grandpa, why did you came here? We killed your child. You forgive us. And he said, I forgave you. And then they said, we forgive you as well. They forgave each other. And this old man died. But the grandson never forgave grandfather for doing that. What I want to say is these are heights that father is talking about, and this old man that did. These are some mysteries, but for us who say that we are believers, these are the standards to see that people like this exist, that this is not just holy people from the past, but that we can be this, that we can follow this road. It's not an impossible road to follow. Brian, you also wanted to comment
Samo
on
da kažem
something.
da mislim da je kontekst u Americi malo drugačije, zato što također ima potpuno nebalans moći u Americi kroz
there's a huge imbalance of power in America throughout the history.
I onda mislim da je malo
and then
običnije u Americi da onda
it's a little bit different in America, and that's why forgiveness is just an excuse not to really face with the injustice that was done towards other communities.
Malo drugačije, zbog toga samo
and it's different here a little bit. So I'm trying to understand what really forgiveness means here in Balkan. If someone asks for forgiveness, what does that mean for the community here and for the individual that hears forgive or I forgive? So, Brian, what is different for you here? Do you think that this stops the fight for justice? I don't understand this. I ask for forgiveness, but this is injustice. I think I don't understand. Can you please give us the explanation? I think what is different in America is that there is a huge imbalance in power. And then just white people saying, oh, forgive us, we don't really face with the structures that still are doing injustice every day for other people, for minorities, for black people, for indigenous people. Okay, so this is not an honest asking for forgiveness. Yes, but what I'm asking is if we are really asking for forgiveness, the true forgiveness from other groups, what does that mean? How does it look like in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Because maybe it's a bit different in America when we search for forgiveness. And here. Does that make sense? Radivoje,
Mislim da, apsolutno, ima smisla.
Absolutely, there is sense. We talked about this before.
Stvar je da li cijelim bićem čovjek daje i
does a man with his own being or her own being ask for forgiveness? The only sin that Jesus condemns is hypocrisy.
On oprašta i ubicama,
i preljubljivcima,
the
adulterers,
kradljivcima,
the thieves,
svima ima razumijevanje.
And has an understanding, but for hypocrites, he does not have the understanding.
Stvar je u tome da cijelim svojim bićem, da ono što izgovaramo,
what we say
to naše
needs
srce,
to be aligned with our heart.
Naše cijelo biće
with our entire being, and we need to testify this. Because it is for nothing, it is in vain to talk and not to have our heart involved in it. Then we create a revolt in other people. Because then we are doing something just to say something out of the position of power or everything or something else. I understood what Bryan wanted to say. I think this is the, thank you for this answer. This was the true answer. We have one more question.
Radivoje kaže, imate li priliku razgovarati
Do you have the opportunity to talk to people that glorify the war criminals? And if yes, how do these talks look like with them? Yes, I have the opportunity, and they look miserable. And this is the shortest answer. Unfortunately, in our society, it's like our society and our sub-society, our communities, Serbian, Croatian, and Bosniak, they're racing each other. Who's going to give more names of the streets that have names of war criminals, or songs, or schools? That's a big problem in our community. So miserable. You don't have anything other to say. They look miserable, or these talks look miserable. But yes, but in the most time, when most of the time when I talk with these people, when they make a mural or something for the war criminal, or a street or whatever, or they glorify them. Most of the time, the answer is, well, they did this to us, and then we had to do this to them. And then it really becomes a vicious cycle. I think that we talked about this with Paula Green last night, who is a peace builder, and she talked about this, that underneath all of this anger, there is a need to say what atrocities were done towards them first, and then out of that they had to make a reaction. And of course, you're right, then we're walking into this vicious cycle that there is no way out. So Adnan has a question as well.
Pa ništa, ja bi se zahvalio prije svega Radivoje na lijepoj govoru i priči, odgovorima i sve skupa mi prija. I mene muče ova pitanja vezana za pitanja oprosta i ovog što je zadnja priča bila, ne samo veličanja zločina, nego zašto naša zajednica, hajde kad govorimo sad i o srpskoj, između ostalog, vjerskoj crkvi, kako vidiš da li je moguće da crkva proba, recimo ja sam, sad da dam primjer, kad sam oca Grigorija slušao u Jasenovcu, šta je za njih govorio, da ne smijemo koristiti Jasenovac za mržnju, i da je to ogroman grijeh, tako, znači kad je bila ova godišnjica sad. Baš smo spominjali kad smo se sreli, to bilo je taj dan.
We talked about this, me and Father Grigorij.
Zapravo shvatio da prvo
and this is where I understood
bi trebalo da se radi upravo obrnuto, da se često ide i od tih stratišta i žrtava jednog naroda se upravo koriste za propagandu mržnje. Ne mislim to samo na Jasenovac, nego generalno taj neki nacionalistički diskurs koji postoji. Onda ne postoji ni osuda onda vlastitih zločina. Znači,
if we don't go from these places, then there is no condemnation condemnation towards what happened in those places. And that's the problem. Because our faith teaches us that this should be our priority, forgiveness. But then again, I cannot understand how our religious leaders are also trapped in nationalism, in this discourse. It's like they don't have any contact with Christianity and Jesus' teaching. And also with Muslims, like they don't have any connection with Islam. Because of course it talks about forgiveness in both these religions and the condemnation of the crimes. And what would really make a big impact is if religious leaders would come to the places of crimes and ask for forgiveness. Like what happened a couple of years ago when leaders of religion, what happened is that religious leaders came to these places and asked for forgiveness. But that was minority. That was once. That was not that wasn't in media that much. So what do you think is the reason for this? I heard one example from Christians.
Kolega iz katoličke crkve, zaboravio sam kako ime, kako se često u Hercegovini dole među katoličkim sveštenstvom vraćaju nacionalni heroji kao kult ličnosti, odnosno model idolatrija, vraćaju se na to da smo mi sveti narod, Hrvati, ne znam i Bog, kao na izraelsku priču iz Starog Zaveta i potpuno se zanemaruje evanđelje u tom smislu koje je
Going back to the Israelites and how they were the God chosen people. So it's like they are inheriting the story of God's chosen people. Do you see the link in that? And how to defeat nationalism? Maybe that's my question. How to defeat the nationalism
Adnane, ono što nisi postavio pitanje što si naveo kao konstatacije, ja samo mogu da kažem tako je, sve se s tobom slažem.
Yes, I agree with you completely.
Na to pitanje koje postavljaš, kad bih ja znao odgovor
if I knew the answer to this question, and if I knew the recipe, then I would definitely I would be given a Nobel Prize, Nobel Peace
krucijalno.
So I think this is crucial in this question, because in this question
ne znam kako da svi krenemo tim putem. Nacionalizam je ono što zaista razvala vjerske zajednice.
How to do this.
Sami naziv Srpska pravoslavna crkva nije adekvatan za jednu
Just the name Serbian Orthodox Church is not an adequate name for a church, and that's nationalistic even in itself. I am a priest of our community, and I am a priest of Serbian Orthodox Church, whose members are not only Serbs. I don't only have Serbs in my church, and that really gives me so much joy. And I'm happy that people come to church even despite the name. The nationalism is something that really stands on the way of the true peace and reconciliation. I think that even when I'm lazy, and when I go with that lazy side, and when I don't want to try, when I say I don't want to have a headache anymore from this, I don't want to do this anymore.
I kad o ovim temama govorim,
and when we talk about this subject,
ili ćutim ili vatam nacionalizma, idem linijom manjeg otpora i
then of course I'm either silenced or I am in nationalism, because this is the easier way to go, because I know that I will buy my members in the church by doing this. But of course we should never do this. We should be without a compromise. We should testify the truth. because if we talk the truth, if we tell the truth, then the truth will set us free. That this is what Saint Paul is teaching us. And this, for us Christians, is a task. But I think also for all the believers as well. And of course, so many examples for Muslims as well. I know that there are examples in Quran and in Islam for this as well. I think this is the main message.
Samo pod pitanje, ima uopšte, samo da ga pitam Amra kratko možda, ima li uopšte unutar crkve
is there inside of the church that some kind of dialogue could happen among the monks or the priests? Do you testify any kind of dialogue among priests themselves for reconciliation? Of course, yes, there's a huge wave of archbishops. So you mentioned Grigorije. 3 years ago, 3 religious leaders went to these places of sufferings, and together they visited them. This summer, our bishop and us, we visited the places of Second World War, all these places where people died as well, from all 3 sides. This is what we have to set ourselves free of conformism. And I think that most of the monks and imams are on this way, not to conform. I feel that most of the bishops are now in this wave of reconciliation. And Adnan says, God willing, I hope so. So for the end, Radivoje, to give a bit of inspiration to people, what motivates you, what gives you strength that you can be on this way of truth, that you do not conform, that you are not lazy, to stand up and to act like this? Well, I'm not really 100% like this. So I know this, but this is what I want to say for you. I'm saying how it should be. And Amra says, listen to what the imam is talking, but don't do as the imam is doing. No, joke on the side. I really want to know what is driving me. My only motivation is gospel. My only motivation, if I want to be a priest, and I do want to be a priest, what I'm teaching, what I'm reading, what I'm preaching, to also do that. And when you are actually living the gospel, then there's results. Is there going to be people that spit in your face, that are crucifying you, or naysayers? Of course, you will always have these people. Jesus is talking about this. If they have persecuted me, they will persecute you more. But what is condolence in all of this? He says, if you keep my word, then they will keep your word as well. Do not be afraid. That's what Jesus is saying. And this is my motivation, and this is my inspiration. This is beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you that you've been with us tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you all, guys, very much. You have even applaudiraju. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. I hope you had a great time with all these wonderful people, and I'm sure you are very inspired. Talk to you very soon. Tomorrow, 5 minutes before 6, you will have a chance to meet Franciscan Ivo Markovic, one also very famous peace builder in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bryan, do you have anything to add?
Nope, that's it. Thank you all.
That's it.
Hvala puno.
Thank you all.
Radivoje.
Good night. Laku noć. Pozdravim i Natašu i djecu.